Right. If you try something once, you're a philosopher, twice you're a pervert.
All right, Dave, I'm starting the live audio here.
Thank God I almost had a good response to that one. Keep
That's why I put it up there.
Recording in progress.
All right.
Space movie going on or something?
Yep,
Yeah, sounds like a horrible.
it is a horror movie.
Speaking of horror movies,
Thor, can you hear us now?
yep, can you guys hear me?
Well, why is that not?
There's no signal.
Oh, that's not plugged.
Can you guys hear me?
What does it
No.
have to be plugged into?
Me for assistant, I can barely turn my own laptop on.
It's into my computer, I guess. I don't know if that's. Thor, are you there?
Yep, can you guys hear me? Hello?
What comfort in?
Hello?
Well, this is signed on.
Are we allowed to do Zoom if we, let's say I couldn't be
Yep.
here for whatever, I could call in Zoom? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, but if there's technical problems, it goes on without you.
Well, they usually do anyway. No one listens.
All right. Oh, they promoted him to panelist. Thor, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yep, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
See ya.
Can't hear
I
him.
can't hear you though.
Hello, 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 hello,
Need a
hello?
join audio, it's bottom left.
The young generation, they know all this stuff.
Recording in progress.
And now it's just.
I like the echo now, that's kind of cool.
Is that because?
Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. We just have a weird echo at the moment. I think before. How's that?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Still weird?
Could be an issue.
You're just going to, hold on.
Yeah, I mean, it's got loud.
Can you shut the audio off of your computer?
Yeah, I unplugged it on purpose, so.
They don't have their phone
Yeah.
connected to the Zoom.
I don't, because I don't have a phone.
I always use my phone. When I do Zoom, I won't use the laptop, I got the phone, because they can hear me really good, and I can hear them.
I don't want them to know where I am.
Parts unknown. I'm here at the Blue Marlin, but don't look at it.
Presume, make sure the input is on Zoom.
You want me to text IT?
We had this problem last time.
I think I just need to take like a Zoom freaking class, I guess.
I could try to do it on my phone. Can you guys hear me?
Being an old fart. It's like, it used to be like this. Hi, I'm so-and-so and I represent.
Do you want me to?
Yeah, we can, and it's
You know,
a Zoom.
I
Make
remember
sure
it very
the
loud.
input is on Zoom.
I would go to, my dad's meetings when I was younger.
Yeah, the good old days, yeah.
Do that with the board and everything.
Way back when it used to be, you sit underneath an apple tree with a bottle of scotch and approve a plan.
I mean, this was 2018, so it's only a couple of years ago.
I remember my first one was Neshoba Associated Board of Health in 1986. And that was such a fiasco because you know, they represent a bunch of towns. And then you try to figure out which rules are
Yeah.
promulgated or which it's, oh boy. Right at, it's like, oh, that didn't start me off well.
Think that, I don't know if you can or not, but shut off the microphone either on your laptop or on
Mhm.
that.
I mean, I
thing.
shut the mic off on that, but I think it's because like this thing
I can go take a nap or something.
has to be. Audio picture.
So they can see and hear us right now,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, so like that speaker is working, it's just not going to there. I think that's what's messing it up.
that will have to be plugged into the camera, behind the camera. Oh, wow.
No.
That's what goes to the computer.
Yeah, but usually it just is, comes right up onto the big screen itself. My guess is it's hanging down because the last people here had problems with this. So they plugged in an HDMI cable instead of fixing it. I'm a panelist. Does that mean I can start the meeting and record it from my computer though?
Well, if they can hear us, that means Bobby's on and can hear us. Or something.
I'm just gonna try something. All right, everyone.
So,
Recording in progress.
As long as I can get the fried clams before I leave today, that's all I care about.
Can you guys hear me? Is that better?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Now
Okay.
we can't see.
Don't do that.
Did you?
Share your screen.
You can't see the roll.
I like it.
I'm gonna go take a nap.
Where's the beef eating? You don't see any of the proteins or the
See the
seasonings.
clams in here, the roll is the last thing.
Oh, Jesus. Do you reach out to IT and
I already
have
did.
someone call us?
You just wanna run?
Piece of information, so.
He took the plug and ran.
He was here earlier, I think he took a plug with him, I think.
Thor, what's up?
If you guys just wanna go ahead, that's fine too. I don't know if I needed. on for
We're
me.
just working on it. It was just a quick section. I mean, we
Okay,
in order to vote too, so,
okay.
Oh, Gabby. Hey.
yeah, just for some reason,
Oh, sorry.
it's not
Yeah.
working, so. Your display,
Oh, no, I got
Just doesn't like us.
it just doesn't like us.
It's
Motion
weird, it
to
worked
adjourn?
last week.
Yeah, it did. There's a computer cable hanging down right now, so,
Right.
Okay,
it
no worries.
just
I'll
says
let you-
no network detected on the TV if you're talking to Brian.
Hello? Okay, yeah, now we have no network protection.
Well, if it gets to it, then you
And
guys
then
need to
when
go,
we do
that's
get
fine,
anything,
and
it's all
I don't know,
echoing.
whatever you think.
Yeah.
I'll wait,
All
I'll
right.
hang on here.
Yeah, the TV says no network detected, and then on the computer.
I
when
mean,
we
this is
look-
all just fine. It's
Yeah.
just the TV itself.
Okay.
All right, hold on, I'll
Okay,
call you
yeah.
back.
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, he's sitting here. Okay,
Well, now mine's muted.
let me give him, so you can speak to him directly.
Brian, how we doing? Good. Yeah, so I mean, it's normally like we sign on to the iPad and it like transmits right up to the TV, but it's not picking up on the TV. And so. I just found the input button actually. Hold on. I mean, I see that in the problem, but I couldn't find the Zoom. Hold on, I think we might have got it. I think we're good. Hold on, Thor, can you hear us? It's not. Is there a reason the volume wouldn't be working in here though? Let's see. No, I mean, it's way up on the TV. Like my volume on my computer is muted because like it usually does. I usually just bring my computer into share.
Can't hear anything from Thor.
No, Thor, you can't hear us, right? Or can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, wait. Oh, there we go. Now he's on. All right, I think we're working. Okay. Yeah. All right, awesome. Thank you. Yep. All right, bye.
I'll fix.
All right, Thor, if you want to call, go ahead.
Okay, so are we good? Are we the meeting running?
Yep, meeting's running. Everyone's here.
All right, it's 4:16, so we'll call to order the Thursday, March 20th, 2025 Septic Review Subcommittee meeting. Keep in mind, this is a hybrid meeting. The public is welcome to attend this meeting in person. A Zoom link to access the meeting remotely is also available on the agenda for this meeting. Please note that the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote connection. We'll do a quick roll call attendance. Thor Akerley, Board of Health member.
Cody Smith, sanitarian.
Gabrielle White, Assistant Health Director.
Dave Sargent, advisor.
Eric Kaplan, Board of Health. Marco Pelazillo, Board of Health member.
Excellent. All right, and then we'll move on to public oral communication for non-agenda items. Is there anyone there or online that has their hand raised that would like to speak for up to 3 minutes?
We have 3 guests. It doesn't look like anyone's raised their hand to speak.
Dan or Tyler, you guys got anything?
That's it.
Okay, we'll move on to the first item on the agenda, which is 3 Ocean Highlands relief requests for a septic repair. Tyler, feel free to take it away.
All right, sure. All right, my name is Tyler Judd. I'm an engineer with Gateway Consultants representing this project here at 3 Ocean Highlands. It's to my understanding that John presented this project a couple weeks ago to you guys, and I believe you're all familiar with the proposed system already. So it's my understanding that you guys wanted us to add a variance for the drain that's 18 feet away from the proposed field, which we've added to this revised plan here and updated the variance form and notified abutters. So those are the only changes that we've made since the last meeting. So yeah, that's a pretty brief summary, but if you have any questions, please ask.
All right, and then just to summarize, just for the record, for 3 Ocean Highlands. They're asking for 1 Gloucester variance to a drain, to a subsurface drain where they're 18 feet away when they're supposed to be 50 feet away. They've provided an impermeable barrier around the system to make sure that the groundwater will be directed downward and not laterally. So in the event of a breakout, there should not be lateral movement of effluent towards that drain. They are also asking for 2 alternative design standards with their Presby system. First one is to reduce the depth of groundwater from 4 feet to 2 feet. That allows for a gravity system in this case. Also helps with grading on the site. And the system is approved for that. The other alternative design standard is that they're asking for relief for 4 feet of naturally occurring soil. They provided 34 inches of soil. So the system is approved for that reduction. This is the only site or the only location kind of in summary from last time where they could put the system. The old system is here, which is really why the new system is in this location due to the ledge. And then they also have a local or an LUA for 1 test pit, when 2 test pits are required, because of the existing septic system, and so they didn't want to damage it. So we could add a special condition that when we're out there, we do confirm that they do have at least, in this case, probably, at least 2 feet of soil, which would be the minimum. If the board wanted to add that special condition, or we could approve it as is. I mean, the system can't. If there was potentially less than 2 feet of soil on what would be this side, the D-box side of the site, they could come back and ask for an LUA and shift the system this way to the property line. So I think it wouldn't be a bad idea necessarily just to confirm maybe either underneath where this D-box is or along this side of the site that we do have 2 feet of soil, because they could potentially move the system during construction to adjust for it. They'd have to come back with a different variance for that, but it's just my recommendation as a sanitarian. So that's about it. Any questions from board members or?
I would suggest approving it the way it is with 1 test pit. Just make it simple.
I would agree. If they do the bottom of the bed and there's a giant piece of ledge, then yeah, let's slide it, but I wouldn't,
Okay.
but yeah. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? This is technically a public hearing, I guess, so are there any members of the public that would like to speak on this project?
I don't have any hands raised.
It's a terrible site.
Okay. So I would motion to approve the project as shown on the latest design plan.
So moved. Oh, second.
Any discussion? Hearing
Nope.
none. Thor, yes.
Eric, yes. Marco, yes.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay, and then next up we have 35 Crescent Point Road. Again, relief requests from designer John Judd from Gateway Consultants. Tyler, feel free to take this one away.
Good.
1 second. Set this right. All right, hello
I can
everyone.
bring it up for you too, but you can start.
Sure. Tyler Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants. You're representing this project here at 35 Crescent Point. So the existing system, I'll wait for Cody to pull up the plan. So the existing system is directly behind the existing dwelling, and it's
So it's over here.
yeah, if you want to zoom in on, yeah, right over there is the existing system. It's about, I don't know, 10-15 feet away from the existing house, if that. And the owner would like to put in a new system that meets all Title V standards. Well, most Title V standards except for the alternative design standards that we're asking for. Due to all the setbacks from the well, from the elevation 13 FEMA flood zone and the coastal bank, we were kind of limited to a small area for us to situate a leaching field. And when we were digging in that area, we weren't able to get the 4 feet. We could only get to about 2 feet plus, and so that's why we have to request these alternative design standards with the Presby system. It's a gravity system that feeds into a D-box that goes directly into the Presby system that you see on the plan. So yeah, we're asking for a few variances to allow the soil absorption system 65 feet away from the FEMA flood zone, to allow 112 feet between the soil absorption system in the coastal bank, and to allow 114 feet between the leaching field and the salt marsh. Gloucester requires 200 feet, where Title V requires only 100 for these areas, so those are our variance requests. And we are also asking for 2 alternative design standards, which is to install the leaching facility where less than 4 feet of pervious material exists, and to reduce the vertical offset to water table by 2 feet. So that's a brief summary of the project. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
And so I'll just kind of fill back in. So I think Tyler covered the 3 variances that he's asking for in the 2 alternative design standards. A question that I didn't ask that came up the other day is, I'm not quite sure, and maybe Tyler can elaborate after I'm done, why we didn't necessarily propose putting the system kind of at the top of the hill. I think initially when we were out there, it might have been talked about just the constructability basically being up in that corner, but I think it'd be good to elaborate on why you position the system there opposed to the other spot potentially. The system is approved for both alternative design standards. They are providing a pan lysimeter for testing on the first leg of the system that will, require basically, quarterly testing for the system to make sure that it's working. I know sometimes the board doesn't like patented sand filters as close to a wetland area or our coastal resource areas. They are approved under the same stringent protocols as the secondary treatment units, although they haven't been necessarily tested as long. As in regards to the flood zone, it is a FEMA flood zone of 13. And so if we look at the vertical component here, the system itself, top of the system is at 27, so it's well out of the flood zone itself. So it does have good vertical relief from the flood zone. And from the salt marsh and such, I mean, they are kind of limited basically to either constructing in that far back corner, or in this kind of location here, unless they do a well setback. They do have an impermeable barrier where there's limited soils. So the liquid will be directed downward. You're looking at about 5 feet of sand on the far end of the field. So even though they're looking for a reduction to 2 feet, they'll have plenty of sand above it. So that'll kind of aid in the filtration effect. Sand isn't a great treatment media, but it is a good clarifier. The soils are loamy sand, I believe, or sandy loam. In either cases, both sandy loams and loamy sands are better filtrators of nitrogen and BOD and TSS as it goes through, because of that silt content being electrically charged. So, if this system was per se, out on a sandy beach, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it in this scenario. It's my opinion, that the system kind of meets the requirements, kind of set forth by the state. And yeah, so my only question to Tyler is necessarily why they didn't think to necessarily, or what the reasoning was for not putting it up in the original location.
It's all ledge and fill.
Where the existing system is?
Yeah, that
Okay.
whole area was kind of raised up. So if we dug over there, I know for a fact we'd get ledge less than 2 feet away. Yeah, I mean, I could show you on the screen, but yeah. Beyond that retaining wall, it's all ledge. and then up there, it's gonna be.
This whole area was terraced at one point.
Yeah, so that's why we didn't even bother looking over there, cause it's not good soil and it's ledge. You can see the ledge, if you go out there, very, very shallow.
Yeah, I mean, I know out here, this is all ledge on the backside of the house.
Yeah.
From walking on the site.
And that wall kind of follows the profile of the ledge over on that backside. And then we probably have to ask for relief to.
I mean, you'd probably have to ask for relief to property lines and to the building itself,
Right.
but. Board members?
You answered a lot of my questions, thank you, Cody. The area is terraced, as you said. And I'm wondering, one of the relief you're asking for is a reduction, because you don't want to have such a large retaining wall. And I'm wondering, because the area is kind of terraced, why that wouldn't just fit in, aesthetically, with the other terraces and things like that. Nobody wants a system that looks like the state fish pier. But in a site like this, it looks like it could be terraced in with the existing terraces. So I'm wondering why you couldn't have a retaining wall there that sort of ties into the existing terraces, and it wouldn't stick out like the existing like state fish pier, and you wouldn't have to have so much of a reduction.
So much of a reduction in,
Well, you want a reduction to seasoning on groundwater because it's gonna be almost a 5-foot wall, which.
yeah, right now it's a 5-foot wall on this side.
Right.
So I think that's the reason for the reduction, because if it wasn't a reduction, then it would have to be even higher.
Well, I wasn't on site, but
Okay.
my question is, the terraces, could that be blended in with the existing terraces so that it doesn't look like the state fish pier? If it, if you didn't have that reduction.
I guess I don't know. As far as that, I know that it is a high wall, so being out on site, this corner, which is the high point for it, would then have to be 2 feet higher.
Right.
So instead of a 5-foot wall, you'd be looking at a 7-foot wall, so it
Right.
might blend in better on this side.
Right.
But I think on this side, you'd be creating potentially a hazard or have to put a fence in, right, if you have a wall that high.
Or you could walk it around. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The property's terraced anyway.
Yeah,
And if you have a wall and you could blend it in, that way you wouldn't have to, have the reduction. And I understand this additional cost, but this is a multi-million-dollar property and a very theoretically inexpensive system, being a Presby. And it's in an environmentally, Little River's an environmentally sensitive area. And I'm just asking the question, I'm not advocating.
yeah,
I'm just saying that, and I wasn't there on site, so looking at things two-dimensionally is a lot different, than being there where it's three-dimensionally. But when I saw everything terraced, I was saying, could it be blended in with the existing terraces? So it actually would add some equity to the property because it would look like it's landscaped well into it.
So are you asking to shift the whole field into the existing terraces? I just want to make sure I'm following you.
Well, the bottom terrace that I'm seeing that's even with it, I'm not asking for. I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Right.
you're talking about this terrace here?
Yeah, I'm wondering if that could be blended in with it, so that actually it would look like the whole thing's terraced and you could have like Adirondack chairs
Right,
sitting there and looking out. So it actually adds equity to the property.
yeah.
By looking at that, you wouldn't have to have the reduction.
But you would ask for no reduction to groundwater.
You could,
Yeah,
even if it's 1 foot more, or it's something, just to have more treatment in an environmentally sensitive area.
Yeah, so the issue with that is, it comes down to the soils that are over there, that could all be disturbed. All those terraces are most likely disturbed soil. And we didn't test over there, but just looking at it, it looked like they brought in fill.
I'm sure it is. They grabbed it from someplace and they put it there,
Yeah,
right? Well, they did something else.
right. We dug into the tree line where we knew it was undisturbed. That's the
Right.
specific reason why we tested in that area.
Right.
Um,
But I'm just wondering, the question,
The question is not whether or not we move the field, Tyler. The question is whether or not we get rid of the reduction
Got it.
to groundwater because it's in an environmentally sensitive area.
Yeah,
and there would be more treatment, with, even though it's a Presby.
Right.
Yeah,
Can
Board
I
member?
add something?
Yep.
I don't like, well, it's not the end of the world, but maybe this could appease some of this, but I see that, the high contour, at the highest point of the proposed system is like 26, 26 and a half. We're basing groundwater on the system design, 24 inches below elevation 25, according to sheet 2. So I do think we should take that 24-inch water table because it's running on top of ledge, which is probably going to be consistent throughout the system. Maybe we could take that from 26 and a half down 24 inches and pick the system up a little bit. I think that should happen anyway, because I think the elevation used for groundwater is a little bit lower than it should be. Yeah, a little bit lower than it should be. It should be 24 and a half, not 23, in my opinion. I don't know if that would appease Dave's concerns. But also I hear what you're saying too, Dave. Makes some sense. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So Thor, you're saying the seasonal high groundwater they used was off of a different test bit, was incorrect?
No, I'm saying they on sheet 2 of the design plan, they called out both test bits at elevation 25, which is fine, but the high point of the system is 26 and a half. Sometimes it's appropriate to assume the groundwater is that elevation, but in this case, I think it's going to be pretty consistent throughout the whole system because it's on top of ledge. So you should assume that the groundwater is 24 inches below the highest existing grade of the system, which in this case is 26 and a half. Not 25. So
Gotcha.
that upper corner of the system is probably existing elevation about 26 and a half.
Okay.
So hold that number as
Yep.
opposed. Okay, I see what you're saying.
And sometimes it is appropriate to do what you did. I just think in this case, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, on one of them, it was like there was 39 inches of soil before there was ledge. And there's undulating ledge, but the ledge in that area, and I know the area. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a sleeted property. I've been to parties there.
Yeah.
So I know the property. But that ledge slopes down towards Little River. And it's more undulating, in the back. And that's typical of areas that are coastal. But more soil that could be, or more more Title V sand that could be brought in, you're getting more treatment, and it's in a relatively sensitive environmental area. So and I'm wondering if it could be just for aesthetic reasons blended in somehow. Even if it's stepped
Right.
down. It's always important from my viewpoint, if it looks good afterwards, neighbors are more apt to have their system done, particularly if it adds equity to the property,
Right.
rather than if it looks like an eyesore. So I think here, with a view of Little River, it actually could add equity to the property if done right,
Right.
landscape right.
So, yeah.
So yeah, I guess Thor, do you want to then move to have them come back with a new plan? Or,
Tyler, what do you think? What do you think? Are they, I mean, do we want to see it? Do we want to see it again? I think maybe it makes sense to, but I'd also probably be comfortable saying what we want here, and Cody can review it administratively. But if you want to come back and talk to them about, revising the layout of some of that backyard, then yeah, maybe we should talk about it again. But if
Yeah.
not, then yeah.
It's your call. I'd be willing, we can raise the field a foot to match that 26 contour or that 26 spot grade up by the D box. So if that would appease you guys, we can definitely revise the plan. It's up to you if you wanna approve it, subject to us changing it, or if you want us to come back, it's your call. But we can do that.
I think if the board wants to vote on the approval of the variances, the field isn't gonna shift, it's just vertically gonna go up, which is an effect on the alternative design standard. And it's less stringent, so my recommendation would be that they submit a new plan and maybe I just confer with Thor before an approval letter goes out that the seasonal high groundwater has been adjusted appropriately.
I think that's a safer thing because somebody may say it wasn't advertised properly because the reductions are a little bit different.
So you think it should come back then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
That's the safer way to do
Yeah.
it.
Let's
we'll bring it back.
just do that. Continue to the next subcommittee meeting, Tyler, is that okay?
Yeah.
Next up is 10 Lawrence Mountain Road, relief request from designer Daniel Johnson, Domestic Septic Design Inc. Feel free to present the project, Dan.
Hi, Dan Johnson of Domestic Septic Design. I was hired by the homeowner for 10 Lawrence Mountain Road to upgrade their failed system. Once you get to the site, you can see what the site restrictions are right off the bat. They have two wells, one well on the property that services the house with a 100-foot radius, not the 150 required by Gloucester. And then the neighbor across the street has a well, and here's their 100-foot radius, not the 150 required by Gloucester. And we have the isolated land subject to flooding on the other side, which is on the city of Gloucester property. The site undulates up. When you get there, you can see why the only place they put it, the original system, which is failing now, is right here. In fact, portions of the pipe, you can see it's almost at grade. It's so shallow even in these lower areas there. So Thor and I were out there doing soil tests.
Me and you.
Thor, sorry, Thor. Old habits hard to die. Cody and I were out doing soil tests. And we found decent soil, good loamy, fine sandy loam subsoil, a good loamy fine sand parent material, but insufficient. We didn't get our 48 inches of it. The soil was very wet, so we couldn't even run a perk test. So we took a sieve analysis from the least restricted soil, which was the EW, took the sieve analysis, came back as a class 2. So we designed it for 30 meta per inch, just given the regulations for percolation of the DEP. And as a result of that, and because of the environmental restrictions of these two wells, I met with Cody. I did over a design before I even finalized the plan and said, do we need, I was gonna do a water loo, should we do denitrification or not? And he defaulted to the denitrification because of the environmentally sensitive area of the two private wells that are within 150 feet of the leaching area, but still greater than 100 feet. So as a result, we're gonna replace the entire new line. Since we're out here, we're gonna put a whole new Schedule 40 PVC pipe and two 2,000 gallon, 1,500 gallon Waterloo biofilter, model UG 550, and a 2,000 gallon septic tank with pump pole to treat the septic effluent for the new proposed 3-bedroom septic system. Because of these restrictions from all the isolated land subject flooding in the two wells, we have a myriad of local regulations, not only state and alternative waiver, but also Gloucester. We started with the least restricted with the local upgrade approval. We request a sieve analysis instead of a perk test because the soil was so saturated, and a reduction from the estimated high water table to the invert pipes of both the water loop and the septic tank with the pump vault. As far as alternative waiver requests, we did go with the built-in 50% size just to keep it out of the buffer zones and between the restricted soils and the restricted land and the isolated land subject to flooding. And then we do have reduction from the groundwater to the bottom of the leaching area from 4 feet to 2 feet. And then 2 of the soil tests did not have 48 inches, but they did have 30 inches. and 42 inches respectively for test pit 1 and test pit 2. And the local Lobster Board of Health regulations, obviously not 150 feet from the well across the street, we're 106 feet. And from the on-site well surfacing the property to the leaching area, we're 150 feet to 128 feet. And lastly, the isolated land subject to flooding, we couldn't keep the 100 feet, but we are at 65 feet. And we did put in the erosion control. We talked to Cody and said, well, at least let's get the erosion control. The access and egress will be right through this area here. There's actually a path on the city of Gloucester. But if we put the erosion control and they'll lift it up to get the trucks in, put it back down, and then in between job sites, the erosion control there to prevent any effluent or surface debris from ever getting over into this isolated wetland. And so that pretty much encompasses the design and the reasons therefore. If you have any questions or comments, and Cody obviously will continue with any other Board of Health requirements.
Yeah, so Dan walked us through all of his LUAs and ADUs and then the 2 Gloucester variances that he's asking for really well. They are providing denitrification, like he said, at my request. Originally, he had proposed a Presby or the Waterloo system here. And so we did discuss that beforehand, and because we're inside the Gloucester wetlands for wells, the denite seems appropriate. This is a failed system at the moment, so the homeowner has been issued a letter because it's actively, there's breakout that is actually running out to Lawrence Mountain Road. And so they're maintaining by pumping. So that like just to mitigate that risk until the system goes in. Yeah, I think it's basically maximum feasible compliance for this lot. There's a lot of ledge. I walked a lot of the lot when I was out there, and it is a lot of ledge that's out there. And I think because the existing system was in this area, that's probably why. And so it's still outside of the 100-foot buffer. But like I said, he is providing denitrification, Waterloo secondary treatment. So I'm in support of the system. Soils are pretty silty out there at that particular location, but Dan did use the appropriate loading rate for the system. So. Thor. More board members?
I think it's maximum feasible compliance. That's a really tough site, and that's a really good system to put in there. I just want to add to that, the isolated land is subject to flooding, there's a depression. We don't know, but just up the road a bit, there's some certified vernal pools. And this has the same profile, if you will, of being a certified vernal pool, and the denitrogen capabilities of the system will obviously help that if it is a certified vernal pool. I think, you did a great job.
Okay.
Oh, Thor, you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is a tough one, Dan, but it's probably the best you can do. And I agree with all the LUAs, alternative design standard requests, and variances. Eric or Marco? Any questions or comments?
It's the Waterloo a lot more expensive than the Presby.
Much,
It is.
much.
Oh. How much does the Waterloo system cost?
The system, I think you said what, an extra 20,000?
Yeah, you're looking at 10,000-12,000 for one unit and another, 6,000-8,000 for the other unit, but yeah, it's substantial.
I mean, this system generally probably will run between 70 and 90,000.
Probably closer to the high end.
Yeah, that's a lot of earthwork. This is also a public hearing for the variances, so we should check to see if there's anyone online.
Yeah,
abutters.
I'm paying attention. No one's waving their hand. I have a George on the line and Joe Borland. I
Okay.
know just listening in for his
Okay.
own, it's coming up potentially in April, and I'm not too sure who George is, but
Okay.
he's probably one of these
George.
cases It is.
Okay, George, if you're here for this case, please feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions or comments regarding the project. Otherwise, we'll continue on. Not seeing any, I would motion to approve this plan, with the variances enumerated as so. Second,
Second.
any further discussion? Hearing none. Thor, yes?
Eric, yes. Marco, yes.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Take care, Thor. Appreciate it. That one.
Good job.
Okay, next we have 4 and 6 Dublin Lane, relief request from designer John Judd, Gateway Consultants. Tyler, feel free to take this one away.
Great. Hello again, everyone. Tyler Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants. I'll be representing this project here at 4 and 6 Dublin Lane. So Cody and I and John went out here and we got pretty good depths in soil. Water table was pretty deep down, so wasn't too big of an issue. We are proposing a standard system with a pump that will be pressure distributed to a pipe and stone field. We're asking for a local upgrade request to reduce the offset to water table from the bottom of field by 1 foot. This is because we don't want to have a big mounded system with water going back into the house and into both houses. Yeah, that's a pretty brief rundown of the project, but that's the only relief that we're requesting on this. It meets Title V and glossy regulations in every other regard. So yeah, happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, so this is a condo complex, so it's not a shared system. There's 2 apartments, if you will, in number 4, and number 6 is a 2-bedroom unit. We didn't do walkthroughs, but the assessors, it's not an increase in design. The septic system for unit 4 is shown. Septic system for number 6, we have 2 pits there shown for number 6. We're not too sure how the sewer lines necessarily get to those pits, but they'll be abandoned properly and the notes are there for that. So it's a big improvement on what is there. It is just a pump to a D-box conventional system. The LUA does allow you to have a 1 foot groundwater reduction without providing an STU. The soils out there were kind of what I found is so far in typical really coarse sands overlined by, basically a lower siltier layer that's down deeper. So good soils on the site. I think it does make sense doing the walk around back here to ask for the reduction. It kind of makes the backyard a lot more of a valuable space. It does have to cross the water line in one location. That location will be sleeved on both sides of it. In the event that an 18-inch separation can't happen. Yeah, so there's no variances to really vote on, but it's the board just needs to make I guess still a motion basically to vote on the acceptance of the LUA. Or you?
I don't have any questions. I think this is appropriate. Dave and anyone else?
When I looked at the assessors, number 4 said that it had 1 bedroom rather than 3 bedrooms.
It's so the assessors, there's 2 field assessors for 4. One is for the 1 bedroom and one is for the 2 bedroom.
For number 4.
For number 4, so under the assessors, there was 2 field cards.
Okay.
It's I think it's unit 1 and unit 2. I found it really confusing when I first looked. But we did So there are the field cards confirming that, and the owner was out there at the time
Okay.
of number 4, and he did confirm that was the amount of bedrooms for that
Okay.
building.
And the only other suggestion is regardless if you have the 18 feet, inches of separation to leave the water line anyway too.
Yeah,
So,
so yeah, it is, yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless, you're saying.
Eric or Marco?
No questions.
I don't think we need a motion, but it sounds like we're comfortable with it.
Okay. All right. That works. Yeah, I mean, as long as the board's comfortable, then I can issue the letter.
Right.
So 24 Brooks Road is up. Oh, sorry, Thor.
No, that's fine. Yeah, 24 Brooks Road, relief request from designer John Judd, Gateway Consultants. Tyler, again.
1 second, you guys moving faster than me. All right, last one. All right, hello everyone, Tyler Judd, engineer with Gateway Consultants, representing this project here at 24 Brooks Road. So this one, the existing system is basically just a pit that's about 5-10 feet off the foundation, and this is a tricky site because there's not a lot of area that we could find for soils, as you can see. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'm working on it. I wanted to be able to bring up both.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
just taking me just a second.
Yeah, I'll wait. Yeah, so this is only a 75 by 100 foot lot. If you scroll up a little bit, Cody, you could see the test pits that we did up there, and we were getting very shallow depths for soil, which pretty much we started in the top right and then started working our way back down, kind of in a line. And the 2 test pits that you see on the left side of the house were the only ones that we could actually get up to 24 or more inches of soil. This is the area where the existing system is, and this was kind of the only area that we could work with to put a system in. We're proposing to add a singular tank, go into a pump chamber, and then pressure distribute it up that wall that you can see there into the manifolds. So that's pretty much the best way that we could situate this field, and yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
And then I'll just do my typical fill in. So they haven't, yeah, so Tyler kind of gave you an overview. We dug the holes out here. There is a large ledge / boulder on this side. They did have it equally come out and split the boulder, and then we dug down and there is dirt underneath that boulder. So it is confirmed that it is a large boulder. So we dug this test pit like about 2 months after we dug these additionals, because the homeowner really was trying to find a solution that didn't require a tight tank. Because many of the houses up on 24 Brooks Road, it's kind of a split 50-50. Some houses have had enough soil, some houses haven't. So there is about 24 inches of soil up here. As we come down the hill, this pit here had more soil. It had about 42 inches in it total. So we started to get better depth on this side of the site. There is a ledge profile that I can bring up that I asked Tyler to add, because I was really concerned about a bathtub scenario on this particular site. Because you do have a large wall out here and limited soils underneath. So that ledge profile does show that there is adequate soil underneath the wall. There also, it's my understanding that the homeowner, George, is still looking into potentially doing another type of construction on the wall, from shea concrete or something along those lines. So taking that wall footing of about 2 feet and reducing it to about 1 foot. So you'd have even more soil underneath that wall. which would just, I think as the design stands now, the ledge profile shows that there's adequate soil underneath the wall, so I'm less concerned because they made some adjustments to the plan after we spoke on the phone. There are 2 window wells along the house that are gonna have to come up. You can see that the window wells, I asked them to add the top of the window well elevations and the bottom so that we could confirm that the barrier that's going around the system would go over the top of those well, or would cover the breakout if there was any for the bottom of the bed, and they do. There is a foundation drain on this side of the house that they've included in their variances. That foundation drain, technically, there is no setback for a foundation drain, it's excluded. Foundation drain does run along the side of the house and out to what is a gravel pit over here. Building code basically requires that that foundation drain stays in place. So I don't think we can really ask them to move it. This is a newer house. The foundation did appear, when I looked on what would be this side, did appear to be waterproofed all the way around, so it's a modern foundation. Because they are asking for a setback basically from 15 feet to 5 feet, which is a significant setback to the house, so they have that setback. There is, in some ways, the foundation drain kind of is actually potentially, you know, if there is some building up of water, it's gonna shuttle it, you know, to another area of the site instead of inside the cellar wall. So it's you know, it's kind of a good / bad thing that it, or I don't know which way to look at it, but it's kind of, there's good sides and pluses and minuses to the foundation drain, and a plus is that like the foundation drain would at least mitigate any effluent potentially migrating if it made it down to that footing elevation into the house, because undoubtedly the footing is probably just pinned to ledge. So they kind of worked on with some of our concerns. They also slid the tanks down, so instead of having originally a 10-foot setback, now we have a 5-foot setback to the wall. That's just to allow for better, once again, to help with that bathtub scenario, or just help with moving liquid off of that area, because the hydraulic gradient is definitely along the direction of the field itself, and so you know, maintaining, I mean, both those tanks will most likely have to be blasted in order to be installed. Just to go really quickly through their LUAs, they do have property line setbacks for all the tanks and the leach fields to this abutter over here, as well as the main road. This abutter on this side, their leaching or their septic system is over 10 feet away. It's kind of up in this corner, if you will, a little bit further away than that, but so there's adequate separation between the beds as far as Title V is concerned. The other LUA, like we talked about, is to go from 5 feet away from a foundation wall, where 20 feet is required, so it's quite a reduction. Although they are providing the impermeable membrane and the foundation drain potentially there is maybe actually an asset. For, you know, providing better human health, basically. And I'm not quite sure what the basement is here. I know it is walk-in from street level, so it's 3-sided, so there is that. So it may or may not have habitable space, but it seems like it's used. They are reducing the height to groundwater, but providing a singular system with a pressure distribution. If we were to go even higher, then, you know, the window wells would be basically below the bed, so I think it's adequate in this area. We also are not in any coastal setbacks of any kind. I mean, Little River is right down the way, and there is definitely limited soils between here and there, but we're outside of those setbacks. And so the definitely the reduction to groundwater being outside the setbacks is less of a potential hazard. And then there is a reduction from, you know, not having 4 feet of naturally occurring soil, 29 inches on one side and 49 inches on the other. I did want to just share with the board real quick before I hand it over for questions. Just this other one that shows the ledge profile, because I feel like it is a very important part of this plan. Yeah. Sorry. Bear with me. But I did ask Tyler to add this. So you can see here, on the ledge profile in this corner that we do have 2 feet, 2.5 feet of soil underneath this foundation wall. With the wall itself. So, things have shifted up, yeah, so the ledge profile was provided at least, to kind of maybe alleviate, some risk of that bathtub scenario, and George is on the line, so it's kind of, the homeowner's aware of kind of that concern.
Thanks, Cody. Just a couple things. That's another tough one. I would say, just make sure they, as a condition of the approval, just make sure they pull their building permit for that wall. And that you get a chance to look at it, Cody, and that you're satisfied with the, wall design. And it probably makes sense to have them stake the wall too, just to make sure they build it in the right location as part of the approval, and they can, they can stake it when they stake the leaching field.
Okay.
I would recommend adding those as part of the approval. And I think I remember 4 Hunter Road is on a well. I could be wrong, but I thought I remember it was. I don't know if that was checked or not, Tyler or Cody.
Check the well reports, the DEP ones, we didn't see it listed. In terms of checking every house in a 100-foot radius, we did not.
So you didn't knock on doors, but you checked
Yeah,
I didn't see it on MapGeo or the Mass DEP well database, but
Okay.
I mean, you've done test pits out there, so it may have come up at other times. So is that something we should look into? And confirm?
I mean, I don't want to delay it if we're confident that there's no issue with the well setback, but
Well, I think what was that address for?
it looks like it's 4 Hunter.
Okay,
Right.
so for Hunter, I think regardless, we could vote on it, and if the variance wasn't, so I can look on that afterwards, and if it wasn't called out, then it's null and void and they have to come back anyways.
Sure. Okay. Dave?
I agree, 4 Hunter and Brooks Lane off of there, they have wells. I think that's more than the 150 or pretty close to it. And I know the property, so I'm really surprised you found enough soil there. You did a great job, with the design. And by having, the tank and the pump chamber down lower, maybe even they could bring in fill and wouldn't have to blast as much, to bring that in. Just as a correction, this is Jones River watershed, not Little River.
Sorry.
And Brooks Road, the surface drain that comes out is a source of pollution to Jones River. So, this definitely will help.
I mean, this is a failed cesspool.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So
it will
This is
help.
an improvement.
A huge improvement. Right, so, yeah.
Eric?
I'm good.
Marco? All right. I would then motion to approve the plan with the variances as requested. With the conditions I mentioned, and that just the condition that the location of the well on 4 Hunter Road is confirmed to be outside 150 feet to the proposed leaching field. And if it's not, then we need a variance request for that.
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing none. Thor, yes?
Eric, yes. Marco, yes.
thank you, everybody.
so
Thanks, Tyler.
Tyler, can you look into that? Email me about that?
Yeah, I'll probably stop by tomorrow, knock on the door.
Okay, thank you.
I apologize. I may need just 5 minutes here. I can hear things happening, but I'll be right back. But feel free to continue on with
Or before you run, can you just call the next session?
yes.
I-
Item number 9 on the agenda is working session regulation update, open issues review and discussion.
Okay, that'll be fine. It's gonna take me a
Okay.
minute to. All right.
Yep.
Cody, real quick, on pressing point, we didn't approve the variances listed, right?
No, they wanna bring it back.
Am I gonna need to do Cody butters if you?
That
Yeah.
one's done.
Alright, I figured if they tuned in, then they would know.
No, you still have to re-notify them again.
Alright, that's.
It's back, just in time.
There we go. We're back to
The echo chamber.
with the echo chamber, yeah.
Give me just a minute and I'll pull up the regs. So this is just a working session, basically, for the regs.
Around the corner.
Yeah, let's see.
One has a copy. Not yet.
Oh, no, that's, I just picked this one up. No, everyone has a copy.
Okay.
I handed out copies.
Just the big ones?
Yep.
Okay. So our
Just
goal
give me-
here is to come out with clarification and something we can work with.
So, what you guys have in front of you or what was sent out is kind of open issues, that we have with the regulations. So we sent it out to our designers. And the designers had a chance to kind of read through it and give us feedback in a certain amount of time. And so what we did with their feedback is we either, if they feedback was just like, this is unclear, then we might have just cleared it up in the document. So some of those things have already kind of gotten taken care of, or some things we just said, like, this isn't important for the board, we've discussed it and we're not gonna include it. But we have included quite a big sheet of open cases, or open topics to discuss. And so what we'd look to do is try to get clarification and closure on these items so that we can then call a Board of Health meeting, to probably a special Board of Health meeting, to vote and have a public hearing on those. So the goal here is to kind of get through these if we can, and then finalize the document, and send it out. So a finalized, or the latest draft was sent out to you guys, and I have the latest draft here. And so what I'd like to do is kind of go through these regulations, or go through our open cases. And kind of, we can go to specific sections, which we've broken it out to, or just general sections to talk about. And kind of go from there. And so I think hopefully we've gotten it in such a way that we can go through it, rather quickly. So the first topic, and I don't want to go too far without Thor, but I think we can start on this first one. A lot of designers were like, there's lots of duplicates in this section, and why? And basically, in a lot of the cases, we've gotten rid of duplicates. But we have included duplicates in areas that we feel either the board has felt or the department has felt, helps provide better clarity, to basically the reader. So they don't have to flip back between the documents. So it kind of like either spells into something or something that we always get questions about, is why we have those duplicate sections. Is there anything that either board or the council or consultants would like to kind of add to, like, should we continue to have these duplicates? Do we need to get rid of them? Or are you kind of happy with kind of how the department's handled it as far as like keeping them where we feel is applicable?
Well, if it makes it easier to not have to go back every time. That makes sense to me.
And I looked at the revisor keep and I wrote keep.
Okay,
Okay. And so everyone knows Tony Capichetti just called into at my request. Just because he's had a large part in these regulations and drafting them, and so he is signed on and available to chime in because he definitely has had a big part. Tony, did you get a chance to look through the open cases?
I did. I've gone through and reviewed them. You know, like you said, this one was just kind of
Bookkeeping.
helps for referencing, helps for consultants who don't typically work in Gloucester by really hammering home some of the points that we're trying to address.
Yep. So then the next one, which is something I'm relatively passionate about, but also we got feedback from 3 different designers. Who all had kind of similar things as like, you know, basically, do we have the data to kind of back up a new nitrogen section? Does Gloucester actually have a nitrogen section or actually have a nitrogen problem? Like, is this something that's necessary? And, you know, it kind of adds complexity and cost to our residents and complexity, you know, for the department and for Gloucester to have it. And so kind of our response is, you know, we have beat this up quite a bit. You know, internally, we've talked about the nitrogen sections a whole bunch. And wanted to keep them. Basically, we took out the section, you know, for testing along primary drainage areas. And some of putting that section out, taking that section out was potentially reclassifying these nitrogen areas. It also was to potentially get ahead of any potential nitrogen problems that may be coming about down the line. So that's kind of why we added them. I think that our geology is such in Gloucester that with our mainly glacial till soils that give good nitrogen filtration, and with our current setbacks that basically require secondary treatment units in most of our basically all of our coastal settings. I don't know if we need to further basically have a nitrogen requirement. So of the systems that are installed in Gloucester, the Singular system that's installed on the majority of our sites is already approved for nitrogen reduction. The Advantex, which is installed not as often, but is still installed. We've approved 1 plan with Advantex since I've been here, without the regulation. Has also gone in, the Waterloo systems, the conventional systems, I believe are around 25 to 28 is what they get down to. And then the D-Night gets it below 19. And so like the traditional Waterloos that we've installed are still nitrogen reducing. They're not classified by DEP as nitrogen reducing, but they are a technology that reduces the nitrogen in a system, not necessarily to below 19. And I think our geology is kind of a lot different than the Capes. So I'm kind of a proponent in some ways as being the enforcing person, but I defer to the board because I have a strong hydrogeology background, but I don't necessarily haven't been working in the city with septic systems. But our geology is such that, you know, we have defining units. We're on the Cape. It's a homogeneous. It's all one basically sand aquifer. The Cape also, you know, is open. Basically, they get most of their drinking water from their groundwater, in which cases we're not in Gloucester. And so I think my opinion is basically like we're adding a complexity to our regulations that might already exist somewhat from our existing setbacks. And it also adds kind of just an additional cost to the resident that I don't know if science backs up that cost. And so kind of with that, I'll get off my high horse now and open it up to anybody else after I've presented it. So the big question here is, do we want to keep these regulations in place? Do we need to modify these regulations? Or get rid of them? And so, Tony, Thor, Dave, this is a working session, so it's kind of informal. So if anyone wants to speak up.
Is there anything I could say that would change your mind?
It doesn't have to change my mind necessarily. I do think that I have some inexperience in the room. And so I am happy to enforce this regulation if the experience and like Tony's here, you're here, Thor's here. I mean, you guys have seen these systems come in and you've lived in Gloucester a long time.
Right.
And so your experience can potentially change my mind. It
Right.
just, yeah,
The differences in opinion between reasonable people is the information provided.
yeah.
But provided that we're all reasonable people, approaching it. So my question is, could we present information that might change your mind?
It's not Cody's mind so much as there are two designers who posed this question. That's how it ended up here,
Right,
So-
but he was advocating for the.
Right.
Yeah, I am, yeah, so,
as well as two
right,
others.
as well as,
At
you know,
least two others, yeah.
Yeah,
so, but
If the designers were here, I'd be happy to talk to them. And present to us.
yeah. I mean, so for me to change my mind, I think I'd like to see like some type of data that supports.
Well, I'm not
need for
gonna
the
bother
regulation.
then, if I can't persuade you by the information that I have.
Well, tell me the information you have then, I'd love to,
If it's a
Okay.
hopeless cause, I'm going to save my breath, but what I suggest, and I strongly believe that is to keep it.
okay,
But I'm gonna save my breath because, I don't need to try to convince you if you can't be convinced.
well, no, I don't, I can be convinced of anything, but, okay. So Dave's a good proponent for keeping it. Thor or Tony, or?
So, yeah, I
Marco?
think
Yeah, so-
possibly a change in nomenclature. This was the whole thought process behind this was we had those priority drainage areas. We had areas that historically have had higher levels of pollutants have been affected, plus the shell fishing areas. Nitrogen's a great indicator of failed septic systems. That's kind of why we picked that. And looking for the abatement from the nitrogen, which will stop on the freshwater side, as well as the saltwater side, eutrophication, as well as algae blooms. So that was kind of why we picked it, because the consent order, consent decree is kind of passed on those priority drainage areas, but there's still significant to the surface water bodies, as well as the shell fishing industry. So maybe it's a high pollutant area or something similar, but those areas that we selected are the ones that had been historically protected under the on-site wastewater regs.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle on it. I think in some areas it may not be necessary, but like the Jones River, for example, I know there's been issues out there, but part of me says, well, it's mostly due to the older antiquated systems, that weren't, that were discharging straight into the groundwater. Part of it may be stormwater. And I obviously want to protect shellfish areas. That's very important to me and to us. So I don't know. I think I missed the intro too, but I forget where exactly all the nitrogen sensitive areas were. But
Here, can you see my screen okay? So
Yeah.
these are nitrogen sensitive areas. So we're saying within 300 feet of the ACEC,
okay.
within 200 feet of perennial freshwater streams.
Well, yeah, I guess the only one I might disagree with is the 200 feet of any perennial stream. I think the other ones make sense from an environmental perspective. Dave, I don't know how you feel about that, but maybe yeah, I don't know, but that would be the only one that, could be, but certainly, I think it's fine to, protect those other areas and the shellfish areas especially. Um, perhaps maybe it makes sense to say may require nitrogen reducing system and we can review it, but talk about it, but maybe that overcomplicates it too. I'm not sure.
I think looking at those areas and narrowing them down might be a good compromise solution. Uh, the
The,
200 feet from perennial
well,
freshwater, I could be behind that because a lot of those are further away from the beach areas where you get a lot of quick um, infiltration through the sandy soils.
right, yeah, we picked 200 feet because that was the Rivers Protection Act, and we wanted to try to align, the wastewater management plan is closely to Concom's, jurisdiction, so that people didn't get confused. But if any area was gonna give, that would seem to be the one, maybe lessen it to 100 or get rid of it. But it was in there originally because in the, wastewater, plan, it was all of these perennial streams. There's one in particular that drains into the ACEC. In Walker Creek, there's at least one.
I know
perennial.
that one. I know that one pretty well.
Yeah, and there have been failed systems there. And that would be an issue. And then the other perennial stream that was noted earlier was the one from West Pond, was as well as the one to Norman's Wool. Those were mentioned in the previous wastewater management plan. So, essentially they're in there, that's in there because of them.
So do we keep the 200 feet to freshwater streams then? Are you saying reduce or call out those ones or? I mean, like it's all like, as you said, like funnels to one spot. It all flows downhill, but 200 feet to a freshwater, I think doesn't conservation only have that perennial stream over on Western, I think it's only 50 feet, right? The perennial streams for conservation?
No,
In Gloucester?
if it's a river, if it's a perennial stream, it's 200 feet for the Rivers Protection Act.
Yeah, and technically you don't allow a soil absorption system within that 200 feet. So this would only be someone who was
Existing.
existing, and maybe you go to 100 feet to the perennial stream
True.
for those existing that are very close.
I think that's reasonable, and then protecting, obviously, I see down there the tributaries to those
Yep.
areas we're concerned about is obviously that's important. So I think that perhaps gives us enough protection.
And since there is a question further down, that another designer, while we're kind of in this section. He says that ACE has a 300-foot setback for traditional systems. Is a 600% increase over Title V. Why is that? Although we offer 200 feet with advanced effluent, or between 200 and 300. If you have a nitrogen reducing, basically it's in this case.
Sure.
So like this designer's just wondering why 600% over for the ACEC? Or why a 300-foot instead of a 200-foot when we have 200 feet for all of our other coastal marshes?
Question.
I can answer this one
Oh,
for
go
you.
ahead.
Oh, go
Yeah,
ahead.
you go ahead, Tony.
Oh, so this ties to the 200-foot offset to coastal resources. The Gloucester Wetlands Ordinance defines a resource called the upland edge that's 100 feet away from the ACEC, and people miss that a lot. So it's 200 feet from that resource area that's the upland edge. So people who aren't familiar with Gloucester come in thinking it's 200 feet from the ACEC, when it's really 200 feet from that local resource area. It's a coastal resource area, which
Well, we've
equates to
had
300.
Well, we've had that conversation here. I think we all agreed that the upland edge is not specifically defined as a coastal resource area. It is considered a resource area under the Gloucester Wetlands Ordinance, but it's not specified as coastal. But the ACEC is coastal, so I think we've had that conversation about, because we've had variances come before us where they're in that 300 foot from the ACEC, but the first 200 is where there's a prohibition on septic system, because that's where the 200 foot coastal offset comes from. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave or Cody.
No, you're right, and this is sort of merged together, the Concom ordinance and I'll read it. It's no component of any drainage system or septic system shall be installed within 100 feet of the upland edge that is within 200 feet of the ACDC. So this brings it into that. This covers that.
Has the commission historically required nitrogen sensitive or nitrogen removal technology between 200 and 300, Dave?
No, it hasn't. But it will not allow a system to be within 200 feet of the ACEC.
Right.
200 feet.
But this
Of
is
the
300.
ACEC, right?
Yeah, within 200 feet. of the
Right,
ACEC.
and it's at its discretion for the other
Right.
100.
For the
Right.
other 100, yeah.
So what posing it keeps it in line, that if between 200 feet of the ACEC and 300 if they do nitrogen sensitive to the Concom, theoretically shouldn't have any problem.
Okay, I mean, yeah, so the question is really like. Yeah, I guess we've kind of debated this anyway, so I don't really want to go down that road, I guess.
So are we all in agreement that we're keeping?
So are we keeping a 300-foot setback to the ACEC? Cause I mean, I think that if we hold our other salt marshes at a 200-foot setback. I feel like we should be holding the ACEC at a 200-foot setback.
Right, but between, say, 200 and 300, if they use nitrogen, reducing technology.
Right, that's the way the regs are written right now, but do we need that requirement? Cause that's gonna affect mainly existing homes that are just trying to upgrade their systems and not necessarily new construction, and so. Do we need protection between 200 to 300, or was a conventional system? That's 201 feet away, providing adequate treatment?
If this is in there, people can always ask variances from that. If there's a reason not to do that, but to protect, say, the ACEC and to protect a designer in the health department from the Concom keep kicking back everything that's been approved by the health department and designers and stuff like that, want to keep it consistent so that Concom is likely to approve it
Yeah, but was the Comcom kicking it back?
versus kicking it back. Yeah,
Has Comcom ever kicked a plan back to the health department?
yeah.
So we'll leave the 300-foot setback in then.
If it's 200, that you can't, and then you're between 200 and 300 if you put in nitrogen.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Right, so it's not necessarily a prohibition, it's just. If someone did have a new construction system between 200 and 300, you'd still be able to do it. With nitrogen removal. Yeah, I guess, yeah, it does feel a little tough for repairs. I think like just repair wise, I'm thinking it could impact people, but. I'm also biased because our family owns property that would be impacted by this, so I probably can't argue it too much.
Yeah, and that stream goes directly into,
Yeah, so we'd be I'm working on that plan still, so.
Yep.
all right, so everyone's in agreement, that we're gonna keep the nitrogen regs in, we're gonna make that 100-foot change. We'll keep the ACEC requirement as it is. I mean, people won't be able to come forward and ask for variances for financial hardship.
Sure.
They're not allowed to do that, so for upgrades and repairs, Like the system we saw for 10 Lawrence Road, you know, it's a $10,000 increase to go to a nitrogen from a Waterloo system. So that's kind of what we're asking, or we're asking our residents to do, but we're also identifying that, I guess, as a hazardous area.
I just want to say it's good to have a high, standard and then be able to give people relief. And it's much harder to have a low standard and then require something on top of that.
Right.
Could we add, I don't know, could we add something in there that maybe there's, let's say someone's 290 feet, like, and then the soil's good and it's all lawn and, they have 4 feet to groundwater, like to me, that feels a little bit of overkill to have to do a singular or a fast. I don't know, could we put in there somewhere like to be able to have the discretion to grant relief to that, maybe? I don't know. Just a thought.
Within variances, every situation is different. There are complexities and nuances to every. And so when that's presented, for each property, that can be looked at because not all lots are created equal,
Right. And I think with the way we're looking to move forward, especially if it was a new construction site or even an upgrade, like you'd have to prove that it's manifestly unjust.
You're right.
And that's a very difficult argument to make. So I think
For new construction.
if like we feel like at 200, we can't, at 290 feet, we have to feel good about making sure we're putting in a nitrogen system. We're not going to grant a variance for that.
Could we add something like that relief for repairs may be considered without the request of a variance? I don't know, maybe it's, what do you, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not why that has to be manifestly unjust, all variances.
That's
all of our variances right now, if you ask for a variance, you have to make the argument for manifestly unjust. Right?
So that's why I'm saying maybe that gives us an out to say, to not have to meet that criteria.
Which I think what you're thinking is maybe we can bring that up when we get a little further for repairs.
Title V, is circular when it comes to manifestly, unjust. And it creates problems that, we're dealing with. And sometimes when people see black and white, I see 50 shades of gray. So.
Right. I think what we're trying to do though with the regulations is like really, I mean, there is no black and white in septic, but we can provide consistent and clear guidance. And the more shades of gray is the less consistent and clear guidance people can come and expect. And so like redoing the regs is hopefully a goal, is to provide that consistency so that everyone knows, like, if I present this plan, obviously it's not going to work. Instead of like somebody just saying, well, let's just see what happens. Which is kind of what people do now.
I strongly believe that the board needs to have some latitude to be able to look at variances, based on, the specific situation on the lot and stuff like that, rather than black and white.
Or
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I've always, that's how the board's always done it, but I agree that the regulations are currently written that it has to be manifestly unjust. But personally, I like the idea of being able to review things more on a case-by-case basis. I know it adds more work and more thought, but maybe that's a good thing. But then again, that would mean we'd have to change our definition of a variance, and remove or modify the definition of manifestly unjust, and that would, and we've talked about that a lot as we've gone through these, so that would complicate things. But I do agree with Dave's sentiment here, but.
Okay, well, I think that this, I know for a fact that we're gonna come back to this topic as we move through this. So I'll make a note basically for the 300 foot to have some latitude. because I think that might be a common theme that we come back to. I don't know how to cook that necessarily into our regulations.
I think
But-
just a sentence there somewhere, but below it in the nitrogen sensitive section, but
What, to have some latitude with this?
yeah,
Like,
like,
ju-
like,
Yeah,
like
okay.
you're not even in the section, the next section down, I think I saw there was more discussion about something like in there, somewhere where it makes sense, maybe not right there, but you know, but the board has discretion to grant relief to
Uh,
something in between 200 and 300 feet for repairs.
I mean, I think.
Do you look at a different classification other than variance, maybe a waiver? That existing dwellings can seek a waiver to the nitrogen standards, provided they can exhibit that the environment, environmental protection is equal based off of separation of groundwater or separation of resource area?
If you were going to be doing that, I would use the word exemption. Waiver is used mostly for planning board. But I would use the word exemption.
And then I guess the other thing that we could potentially like. Do, which is not really along what the board or the document is aligned with, is conservation basically does not specify. What they want between 200 to 300 feet, they just say they want to have jurisdiction. So instead of having, I think it might create too much ambiguity. But do we want to pull this out of the nitrogen section and say that between 200 to 300 feet? I don't know, do we want to have some type of discretion opposed to it just being in the nitrogen section, I guess? Cause like conservation doesn't provide any feedback, they just say they want to have, right, Dave, if you correct me, like, doesn't the document just say that they have jurisdiction between 200 to 300, but not that you have to do anything specifically?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
There are performance standards. And you can't have any impact on the upland edge at all with drainage or so under the performance standards, anything that you do, you can't have any impact to the upland edge.
And then upland edge is 100 feet from
From the
elevation
ACC.
10, right?
From
Or-
elevation 10, correct.
Yeah, so it's within that 200-foot buffer.
Well, elevation 10 is the end of the ACC, and 100 feet from that's the upland edge. And so anything that you do above that can't have any impact at all, including you can't put in drainage swales or roof drains or anything else that's going to impact that upland edge. Because then you're going to be altering, the upland edge. And we just had a lengthy project before us in the ACEC, where took 2 years for them to finally design something, where they could design it where it wouldn't have an impact. And the septic system within 300 feet, of the ACEC
Yeah.
was a huge issue. But it finally got designed and the drainage finally got designed and they did all kinds of mitigation and no disturb zones, for perpetuity. And they were able to get it so there wouldn't be any impact to not only the ACEC, but the upland edge. And they couldn't increase impervious surfaces or herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, the whole bit. But yeah, it's an issue.
So are we gonna clarify in this one item? The only edit is the change from
Yep.
200 feet to 100 feet for a
Yeah.
perennial stream. And then there's a side note, to add, an option to may request an exemption between 200 and 300 feet for an existing dwelling. Is that what we're going for?
I think that's
Sounds right to me.
Okay,
And are we keeping this exemption language in this section, or does it belong in a more general section?
I think we can figure that out
We'll figure that out.
internally.
Okay, so I've got those two
You
edits.
got those edits?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, so next up, this is another designer comment. Upgrade and repair shall only comply to Title V. New construction or increased flow shall meet Gloucester on-site wastewater regulations. The concern here was raising costs for existing homes. This topic didn't come up during discussion for our new regulations. I mean, I believe that like even existing homes, like it's kind of a bummer that they have to upgrade their systems, but like these are environmentally sensitive areas and that's the whole point. So I would just I open it up to the board, but as the sanitarian, I would just say kind of we have these regulations for a reason. And so some of these questions are just to prepare board members for like questions that may be coming from the audience. And so this is one of them.
Yeah.
It can add a lot of cost to an existing home in Gloucester. But I think that like, that's why we have our septic loan program and deferment program. So, any comment on that or can we move on?
Like move on.
So we're keeping
Thor,
it.
keeping it? Yeah. Ours-
Could you repeat what it is exactly? I'm sorry, I missed the first sentence.
This is a recommendation, basically, that any upgrade or repair only needs to comply to Title V.
Not the local regulations?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, well, it's a repair, so, we'll just grant variances for repair. You know what I mean? It's just you have to,
Well, they're saying that they wouldn't have to prevent like
yeah.
supply secondary treatment, basically.
Yeah.
If
yeah, I mean, but that's how we've been doing it for decades,
Yeah.
so.
yeah, exactly. So I think we can move past that.
Yep.
Why are we refusing? Oh, referencing Gloucester wetland ordinance, it needs to be overhauled due to some ambiguity, we should only reference. CMR, our 310 CMR 10. And so I would say that like we didn't have a formal, I think we did have a formal discussion about this. I mean, we do in our document right now reference both the wetland ordinances, and CMR 10. So does the board want to remove because Gloucester wetland ordinances needs to be overhauled, or I mean, we should still reference it, correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
I think we have a better chance of getting the megabucks than having the budget wetland ordinance overhauled.
They need to overhaul.
Well, it needs to be overhauled, but if I go down unanimously, last time went before.
So this will be a big sticking point. But I'm gonna read this one out loud because I think it was well worded. The definition for manifestly unjust within the new regulations should be avoided. The volunteer members of the Board of Health Septic Subcommittee may not be qualified to make this assessment and should rely on the science of effluent treatment when considering variances. And not the legal argument of whether a property owner is harmed by variance request denial. The standard of substantially all beneficial use of the property leaves no latitude for voting board members. And I recommend that an environmental law firm be consulted to the opinion or to, I guess to the opinion on this proposed regulation. We did consult our legal department. They didn't kind of come up with any issues with this. I know we are looking for some latitude to potentially for upgrades and repairs, where they don't have to necessarily I should preface this with upgrades and repairs make the manifestly unjust argument, and their argument is that they have to be able to use their house in its existing way. So everything that the board heard tonight, although it wasn't specified, every repair we do, that's a repair, so not added flow to a system, is because that home already exists, and I think the board understands that really well. So this is mainly for new homes, so this is, or for existing homes, bedrooms to their existing house, still have to make this argument, and so, this person is correct that it doesn't allow a lot of latitude for board members, to move. Although I think kind of what we're stuck with is like how to change the definition of manifestly unjust to allow latitude. And one suggestion has been that we somehow change it for just existing homes. Although that doesn't seem fair to somebody who is trying to develop an open lot, but we could say that we hold open lots to a higher value. I don't think that's, if I was developing a piece of land and my neighbor just put in a brand new 4-bedroom house that was a 3-bedroom house, and I wouldn't be able to build on that land at all. I think that that could create a lot of problems. And so, any suggestions on adjusting the language of manifestly unjust to allow for some latitude? And we just kind of talked about this a little bit,
So
but
I think there's some flaws in their argument. First of all, for a full variance, it's not just the Board of Health Septic Subcommittee, it's going in front of the full Board of Health for a variance. And to argue that you may not be qualified to make the assessment of manifestly unjust, but you are qualified to rely on the science of effluent treatment. So, I mean, the people on the board are thought to be qualified more so that they're open-minded and listen and compared to the rules. I mean, I just think that that's the standard called out in Title V, and the further you get from that standard, the more trouble you can end up in, for lack of a better explanation.
Yeah.
I agree with Tony. I note that in Title V, we use manifestly unjust, but it only uses substantially manifestly unjust when it comes to new construction. And in law, this was taken from case law, it's substantial loss of reasonable use of the property that was intended for. Otherwise, it's considered a taking. And then if you have a regulatory taking, you may be liable for buying that lot. And it only has Title V only has substantially manifestly unjust when it comes to new construction. It's just manifestly unjust for a bunch of other things. So there's more latitude for other variances than there is for new construction.
yes, there is more latitude if
Right,
it's not
yeah.
new construction.
Right, yeah.
Right.
And the problem is Title V uses new construction as a huge net, if you will, to cover even somebody adding flow to an existing system. And that existing system could be like a cesspool, and somebody could put in a new system and add 1 bedroom, nitrogen and everything else, and you would be improving public health, safety, and the environment. And is that substantially, is that better, for health, in order to be able to do that? And I don't have the answer on how to write that up.
When somebody buys a piece of property,
Mhm.
whose responsibility is to determine when they buy it, if it's not gonna make it, if it's too small, if it doesn't have the wiring required.
It's the buyer has to do due diligence, yeah.
So then, why are we then,
Because you're changing the regulations after they bought it.
This is, I believe this is the same,
This is the same
Definite-
regulation that
there's
we've
nothing
had for
changed.
years.
yeah,
but-
this is
Right,
the
it
same
is.
terminology. And I know that our
I
city
can't
council has said that for new construction, if you have the ability to put, a bench on your property, that is it's not a taking and it's not manifestly unjust. So,
Right.
that's what I'm wondering.
yeah, so
If they buy a piece of property that's not,
buildable, just like if it
Buildable.
was zoned not
it's
buildable.
not, that's not manifestly unjust, it
Correct.
just, they made a mistake.
There have been a handful of properties in Gloucester since I've been around, that when we changed the regulations, they had a buildable lot And we changed the regulations where it'd be unbuildable, and we had to allow them to build, otherwise it would be a taking. And so what was done is they had to put in the best treatment system that they could at that particular time. You know, one of them was up there at Winkishi Consent Hall Circle, right there by the ACEC. And another one was by Hammond Castle that I could think of, and another one on Little River on Biscayne Head Point. You know, that we've had to, based on legal case law and stuff, we've had to back off and, you know, because they already had property that they were going to be developed, and we changed the regs.
Right, so I think, I mean, really, I think we just need to, I don't think there is a way to change this
I don't know.
definition. So, at some point we can. We just have to figure out a way to, or someone just has to make their cases, I guess, and the board has to be able to determine that. And I think that's where the 50 Shades of Grey come in.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that we, yeah, do our best and sometimes it's fall through. All right, so the next time, 0302. I mean, I don't think we can change, like, the definition is important for people to make. So this is a comment that this is a circular reference. So we added this in, basically that, so, yeah, so this is a circular reference, but all septic design plans with components of systems located within setbacks to resource areas and buffer zones shall be submitted to the Conservation Commission for review. Health Department approval of such a plan shall be contingent upon obtaining conservation approval. Now, this doesn't necessarily say that conservation has to approve first.
Right.
This just says that, like, when we approve a plan, you still need to go to conservation to get approval.
I mean, it's already state law, but
Yeah, does it make sense to keep it in there? You're saying it's state law, Thor?
yep,
Yeah, keep it.
sure,
Should
it's fine. It's just, I mean, most consultants should know that, but it's fine to.
we- All right. The next one, minimum setbacks, which we've already covered for the ACEC, so I'm gonna skip over that. So the next one, this one, I think it was a typo, and I just wanted to bring it through the board's attention to make sure that I thought it was a typo. So clarificate, so the A and AE and land subject to coastal flooding. We talked about adding a vertical component to this. And so we talked about 4 feet above flood elevation from the bottom. The text says from the bottom of the soil absorption system. I think the text should say from, like, the ground surface. Because if we say from the bottom of the soil absorption system, that means that somebody could build in a flood zone and just elevate the soil absorption system out of it. Whereas if it's from the ground surface, we still, I think the intent of the vertical component was that, like, we grant variances similar to what I said for Crescent Point, like, oh, the flood elevation is 13, but this system, the top of this system is at 27. So it's, you know, so odd feet above it. My question to you guys, and I'm the one who brought this up, not a designer, is shouldn't this be from ground surface instead of the bottom of the soil absorption system? Or do we intend for it to be the bottom of the soil absorption system?
Yeah, I thought it was the bottom of the soil absorption system because the
Correct.
still water elevation from the flood, you want to keep it out of the septic system.
I agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
And Cody, I see your point, but, I mean, Title V does allow you to put systems in both land subject to coastal storm flowage and,
BLSF.
and BLSF. So you could, you know, the intent, I think, was, yeah, separate it from the potential highest point of water. And then also, like, somebody could just put 3 feet of fill on top of their system, you know, maximum allowed, and then just say, oh, and then the bottom is like only a foot above it. You know what I mean? So it works both ways.
It does work. Oh, because then it would be,
Then they'd be cheating it. They'd be
yeah, I
closer
mean,
to.
I guess I was thinking about, like, the ground surface elevation, like where the system is, not necessarily the top of the system itself. I was just trying to I thought we needed more of a setback here, cause this just doesn't seem like much of a setback. Cause we allow people to then build in the flood zone. So new construction, it's gonna open up potentially a lot of land that's gonna be able to be developed if we had 4 feet from the ground surface, isn't that a more stringent one or less stringent?
Less stringent.
Okay, all right, so we'll
Yep.
keep it that.
Yep.
Right.
Boom.
And,
Oh, Dominique's gonna
He's gonna
love
be-
that one.
So happy.
We debated that for a long time.
the, my agreement to lessen the, coastal bank setback depends on this being from the bottom of.
Of the soil absorption
Yeah,
system.
because,
Okay,
I spent a whole weekend looking.
I just thought that if, it just seemed funny that you could just. And be in the flood zone. And then just say oh, I'm in the flood zone, who cares, I'm gonna put my system up, but then
Right, but it's not gonna be a public health hazard if it floods.
Right.
Okay, love it, let's keep it, move on.
And it's not easy to permit a septic
Right.
system in BLSF. That's a pretty hard thing to do for the conservation, so.
Oh, is it hard with conservation to permit and?
Yeah. Any
Yeah, you have
portion-
to offset any fill that you bring in, so if you build a huge mound system, you're digging a big hole someplace else. And it's gotta be at the same elevations, so, yeah, it's
Okay, love it.
complicated.
2.20.
So I gotta cut out a little early, guys, is that okay?
Yeah, do we need, Marco has to go, does everyone, Thor, do you have to go too, are you good?
I do have to go, but I can hang on for a little bit longer.
Okay, do we need to call this meeting before Marco? I think we need to call it before Marco goes, and then we'll just remain a working session afterwards.
Yep.
So Thor, we can move past this, I guess. I don't think we have to make a motion because it's a working session, or do we, Thor?
You
I
want
don't-
to adjourn and then.
Adjourn first.
Yeah, but we have to do consent for the board and then a motion to adjourn. So,
Go, you move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,